everything you need to know about hepatitis E. Globally, there are around 5 million cases of acute viral hepatitis due to either hepatitis A virus or hepatitis E virus annually. In the past 20 years, cases have soared, increasing tenfold. Hepatitis E and hepatitis A, together with norovirus, make up the top 3 causes of viral foodborne illnesses, with hepatitis A and E being considered more clinically severe than norovirus. Let's explore how hepatitis E infections can arise from foodstuffs, why it's such a risk, and what control measures are available. What is hepatitis E? Hepatitis E is a liver disease caused by the hepatitis E virus. It remains a significant public health concern, particularly in regions with poor sanitation. The virus is primarily transmitted via the fecal-oral route, often via contaminated water or food. Most commonly, outbreaks are linked to the consumption of undercooked meat or shellfish, or drinking water contaminated with feces. The disease presents with symptoms such as jaundice, fatigue, nausea, and abdominal pain. In most people, the condition is self-limiting, but it does pose a severe risk to pregnant women, older adults, and immunocompromised individuals. Symptoms begin up to 10 weeks after exposure, with the typical infection incubation period being 5 to 6 weeks. They can last up to 6 weeks and include an initial phase with fever, followed by symptoms of liver inflammation, including abdominal pain, rashes, jaundice, dark urine, and pale stools. Hepatitis E infection can lead to acute liver failure, especially in pregnant women. Patients who experience liver failure are at risk of death. Common food vectors. Common food vectors for hepatitis E include pork and pork products. Hepatitis E is often found in undercooked or raw pork and pork products like liver, sausages, and pate. This is known as zoonotic transmission. Both wild boar meat and raw venison also carry a significant risk, although pigs remain the primary reservoir for zoonotic hepatitis E. Contaminated shellfish, particularly bivalve mollusks such as clams, oysters, and mussels, can carry hepatitis E, especially when harvested from polluted waters. Soft fruit, such as berries, can become contaminated with hepatitis E through irrigation with contaminated water or improper handling. And contaminated drinking water. So that would be drinking water contaminated with feces from infected individuals or animals. And that is a significant source of hepatitis E infections. Soft fruits may seem like a surprising addition to the list. However, a 2023 analysis found that soft fruits pose a particular risk of being contaminated by enteric viruses. After testing berries purchased in Ireland, researchers found evidence of the virus in 6.7% of samples. Recent cases. In March 2024, Finland recalled meat products from across the country as people fell ill with hepatitis E. 81 cases were identified by the Infectious Disease Register, with half of the victims requiring hospital treatment. The illnesses were linked to salami. Several brands recalled their products after the findings. Confirmed cases of hepatitis E have skyrocketed in Europe in recent years, from around 500 cases in 2005 to more than 5,000 a decade later. The bulk of European cases were due to zoonotic transmission, with pork and wild boar products being the main sources. Where is hepatitis E globally? Not all parts of the world carry the same risk of hepatitis E. The highest numbers of cases occur in places where contaminated water supplies or food sources are most prevalent. Hepatitis E infection hotspots include South Asia, with countries like India, Nepal, and Bangladesh experiencing frequent outbreaks due to contaminated water supplies. East and Southeast Asia, China, Vietnam, and Myanmar report numerous cases, often linked to consumption of contaminated food and water. Several African countries, including Chad, Sudan, and Nigeria, have regular hepatitis E outbreaks exacerbated by inadequate sanitation infrastructure. Some nations in the Middle East, such as Pakistan and Iran, have significant hepatitis E incidents, often related to both food and waterborne transmission. And in Latin America, parts of Mexico and Bolivia report sporadic outbreaks, usually linked to poor water quality and hygiene practices. Hepatitis E preventive measures. There is no one-size-fits-all solution to solve foodborne outbreaks of hepatitis E. It requires changes in hygiene standards, food safety and public health infrastructure. Key measures include access to clean water, which is fundamental to reducing cases. Not only does it reduce direct consumption, but it also prevents food contamination. Water should be treated to eliminate viral contaminants, and sewage must be disposed of correctly. Food handler education. So educating food handlers about safe practices is essential. This includes thorough cooking of meat, particularly pork and shellfish, to kill the virus and avoiding cross-contamination in kitchens. Surveillance and monitoring. Local authorities and national health centres should continually monitor for new cases, detecting sources of contamination to prevent the spread of the virus. And as usual, I've got a complete list of sources in the email and the post, and some links to some further reading as well.